product manufacturers, service vendors in this space are going to be in violent agreement with George about these 5 areas. But I do believe that the challenge as a provider of products or services that we face is twofold. One, I think we have to deliver in an economic fashion. You know, George mentioned the cost curve right now. It tends to address the higher end. We certainly need to drive cost out of that. And so we've got market trends that Stuart's talked about. We've got the standards that our colleague from the ZigBee Alliance has spoken to. Standards tend to drive cost out, you know, because all communication systems that are successful will become commodities because people want to communicate. So we take these kinds of technologies and reduce the cost. We get more ability to lay down inexpensive infrastructure to communicate out all this data, all this information to be able to see to improve quality of care. Operational issues are a big deal. Part of what our company does, not to pitch here, but we take a real strong bias towards passivity. You know, when we attempt to, and I think it's unique to this generation, the boomers, parents, and the elderly boomers, that they are technology averse. When we attempt to impose technology onto their lifestyle, it just doesn't really go very well. They're not big into touch screens. They're not big into having their life modified. So I think the ability to make stuff easy and passive, I think, will assist, again, in pushing out that event from taking place that causes the curve, or that causes the transition into the dependence part of that curve. Ubiquity, I think, is another issue. When we're talking about this, no one company can do this all. So we've got to have an environment that facilitates the ability for these sensors, these devices, these telehealth devices and so forth, to be able to communicate, to interoperate with each other, and to share that data out, do it securely, do it leveraging the all-present internet, I think it creates a huge opportunity for us. Yeah, key challenges. Now, you know, I think most of us are here probably because we're trying to find a way to monetize this market. You know, let's be blunt. What are the issues? I think apart from all of the things that Stuart has identified, just pragmatic marketing issues. One is just basic awareness. People do not know about this issue. They don't know that there's technology to allow you to age in place. Okay, so we fight ignorance, first of all. Always educating a market, as a marketer, worst proposition on the planet. It's the most expensive way to go to market. So I believe that you know, that supply-demand crisis that we're talking about, I believe that will go great lengths in educating the marketplace as to the need for these kinds of technologies. Second is a phenomenon that term was coined by Serge Zyman, who is a marketer formerly for Coca-Cola. He refers to it as virtual consumption, which is the effect where people love your product, they just don't feel the need to purchase it. Okay, and we face that all the time. You face that in the marketplace. Oh, that's really cool, but we don't need that. We don't need to buy that. But I love it, and I'll tell everyone about it, but I will not open my wallet for it. So I think if we can address those issues, we'll find product adoption increasing. But I do believe that we've got to, in order to have these assistive technologies help, we have to minimize lifestyle change for both the senior, the care recipient and the caregiver, as we call them. We have to minimize learning curve, and we have to maximize distribution of the assistance burden. You know, that was a big deal for me. I had 4 siblings who lived within 10 miles of my parents. I lived 120 miles away. I might as well have lived in China, and I've done that before, so I can say that. But, you know, we would get together quarterly, and there was just such a damming up of all of the issues, and I, as the son who was not there, or the brother in this instance, because my folks weren't at the meetings, you know, and my siblings are dear people. I love them dearly, but they were really angry with me. I didn't carry my share of the burden. I think that's a big opportunity for this technology to assist the caregivers in managing through this kind of transition. So, final slide, I believe, here now. when we talk about the parents of the boomers and the boomers themselves, I think the better approach currently, and you know, by the time I hit this place, and given that I'm 30 years old, I've got 35, 40 years before I get there. That was a lame joke.
You look great.
Thank you. You know, my wife told me the gray's got to go, but I'm not panel averse. You know, this is a short-term phenomenon, this technology aversion thing, but it's 7 or 8 years to 12 years, I believe. And so I think our product designs really better accommodate for that, not having to impose the user interface experience too much on people, as much as we can, at least in the early phases of trying to age in place gracefully. But I think passive sensor technologies, I've listed them here, there's no reason for me to name those, but looking beyond, as we move beyond just this passivity thing, what we really need to do is start to add intelligence to the data. You know, heuristics or so-called expert systems, the ability to learn from what's happening as we gather what's going on in the residence and be able to pass that intelligently to the caregivers is a great opportunity for us to manage, improve quality of service, and so forth. So with that, George, back to you.
Great. Thanks, Kip. And with that, we'll open it up for questions. Go ahead.
You want me to answer that,
Yeah.
George? Okay. Well, I think if we, and my 7th grade pre-algebra teacher's rolling over in his grave right now. Here's the Venn diagram of home automation technology and the other, you know, the set of home automation technology. And here's the set of people that need aging in place technology. Home automation is not inexpensive. You know, that I've stated the obvious here, but the question is, in that overlap, how do we go to market? It's just very expensive. And the short answer is